Savvy Central Radio, drawing out the best from our guests with your host, Christina Nitchman.
This is your host, Christina Nitchman. Each week, Savvy runs weekly broadcasts providing entrepreneurs and successful individuals a platform to express their dreams, hopes, lessons learned, expertise, and wisdom with the world. Our first guest today is David James, a transformational hypnotherapist in Los Angeles. A former police detective and Episcopal priest, he is the author of 3 books on the inner journey. He has a PhD in clinical psychology and has graduate degrees in spirituality and human development. Find out more about David at davidjameshypnosis.com. Our second guest is Dr. Dorothy Adamiak. She is an Ontario licensed neuropath doctor, author, and speaker. In the 17 years of her private practice, she's successfully helped thousands of patients get back their health. Today, she shares her real-life story of overcoming poverty and health challenges. She is also the author of The Ultimate Guide to Low and Fluctuating Blood Pressure. Find out more about Dr. D at drdnaturopath.com. Hi, Dr. David James. Welcome to Savvy Central Radio. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you for having me today.
I'm very happy to have you. You brought me back to a wonderful woman I met, Deborah Burnt, a number of years ago. She was my very first mentor, and she was a hypnotherapist. And I had a lot of misconceptions about what hypnotherapy was and think it was like making people do crazy stuff. And she was like, no, it's not about that. And so explain a little bit about your journey, how you came to working in cognitive psychology and also becoming a hypnotherapist.
Well, I've had, like most of us at this stage of life, when you're in your 50s and 60s, I've had a number of opportunities to explore and understand life in ways that are powerful and life-changing. Mm-hmm. And for me, my training, as you said, was in cognitive psychology. That was my doctorate. And I did traditional therapy for years. And one of the things that I discovered was that, and this comes as no surprise probably to any of us, but that when you're on the verge of making really powerful change in your life, that an automatic defense system throws itself up. We call it homeostasis. In other words, you know, if this, whatever this is, if this has worked so well for me all my life, then why would I want to change it? And so we have these, you know, biological and physiological and psychological systems that are all kind of in a pattern. They're kind of rooted in a way of being. And even though that way of being, that way of being part of life may not make any sense to us logically, in our subconscious where those patterns, those life scripts are held, it's rooted really strongly. A good example is when I was a police officer, I'd often go in the middle of the night, I'd go to a domestic violence case, and that a man would have severely beaten his partner or spouse. And when we were ready to arrest him and take him off to jail, the victim would plead or cry or sometimes attack us. Because what she, and sometimes it's he, but in my case it was she, what she knew in her deepest level was this relationship with this man. And even though it was abusive, it provided some degree of stability and support for her. And so for her to be able to move beyond that, she had to get out of this automatic response. Well, I found the same thing in psychology as a counselor, is that we have these life changes that we want to make, whether it's just a changing of a habit or increasing our financial position or finding true love or whatever it is. But we have all of these predetermined, if you would, set deep in our subconscious patterns that when we try to change them, this homeostasis kind of kicks in, and all of a sudden fear and procrastination and all of these things start to happen, and we don't make the change. So, for example, say that somebody comes to me and say, I want to stop smoking. That's a very common experience that people come to hypnotherapists for. You know, they logically know that every cigarette they take is shortening their lives. You know, they smell horrible, the taste is bad. You know, peer pressure, family relationships. You know, you have to nowadays go outside and smoke out in the field because nobody wants you in their building. Any number of reasons that logically and rationally, with the conscious mind, this person would want to quit smoking. Well, so the plan is, okay, take your last cigarette today, and tomorrow, no more smoke.
Mm-hmm.
And they wake up tomorrow morning, well, they go to bed tonight, full of resolve. And they wake up tomorrow morning and they say, I think I'll wait till tomorrow, or the next day, or the end of the week, or I'm going to a wedding or a party. Well, all of these rationalizations are part of this homeostasis that comes up, this automatic default that we resort to in our ways of getting through life. Well, so in traditional therapy, that talk therapy, the idea is, and I'm making it very simplistic here, that you just run up against this wall of homeostasis, against this wall of deep-seated patterns that don't want to be changed, and by talking and talking and talking and talking and talking, eventually you would take a brick out of that wall, and then the next brick out of that wall, the next brick out of that wall. But what I found with hypnosis and hypnotherapy is that instead of doing that, we just hop over that wall, and we go directly into the subconscious mind, where the patterns are formed, where people need to make the change, where their beliefs and their systems and their emotions and all this is, and in that we then rapidly make powerful change.
That is amazing. And this recalls for me, David, when I first worked with my mentor, she had created a visualization for me to do every day. I think I did it twice, once in the morning, once at night. And it was basically setting up a wall of all my limiting beliefs like you're not good enough, whatever. She said, put on that wall whatever you feel is coming up for you negative all the time that you keep repeating within yourself, and put it on that wall. And then she had me knock it down in some fashion, whatever fashion I wanted to use, whether it be a big crane or whatever, and knock that wall down every morning and every night. And it began to really change my perspective on how I saw myself, because I really, and a lot of my friends would say, you would always apologize and not see yourself as good enough. But literally breaking down that wall within my mind bit by bit was helping me to relieve or get rid of some of those limiting beliefs.
Exactly. And one of the things that we know is true about the mind is the law of repetition. We didn't develop these limiting beliefs overnight. We didn't wake up this morning and say, I think I'm going to be a mess in my personal relationships. The reality is probably we've had from junior high on experiences where we've had success or not with relationships and marriages and divorces. And so using the power of hypnosis, we use the law of repetition to establish new patterns, establish new beliefs that then enable us to make the changes that we want, and then we kind of switch off the old patterns.
And it's interesting because I think people have this idea, Dr. James, that really hypnosis is really someone mind controlling you. And there's movies out there where the government has secret agents that will get into your mind and make you kill people and stuff like that. Now, that is not at all what hypnotherapy is. And what my mentor had told me is that really no one can force you to do anything through hypnosis. Is that correct?
Exactly. Matter of fact, I've said this a number of times in radio interviews and my public lectures, is that the reality is that when you're experiencing hypnotherapy, when you're doing it with a trained therapist, you actually are in more control of your mind than less. Yeah, because you're engaging the two levels of the mind, the conscious and the subconscious mind. We don't just put the conscious mind to sleep and you find yourself in some kind of zombie trance. Rather, the conscious mind is the gardener. That's the metaphor I use, of the gardener. And the subconscious mind is the garden in which we place new thoughts and patterns and sustaining beliefs. Yeah. So you're actually in more control, not less.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that is my mentor had said to me that often we're in the unconscious mode. We're getting to work, we're jumping in our car, we're going to the grocery store. But if you were to sit down and say, okay, what are all the steps I take? Can you visualize it or even see it? We're on automatic mode much of the time. And when you're going through hypnotherapy, like I was with my mentor, you're actually now present. You're now paying attention, and as you say, bringing your subconscious along with your conscious mind together.
Absolutely. I have a client, I talked to him last night, and he had some surgery recently, and we used hypnosis instead of anesthesia for this surgery. And what he found was that when he was able to be present to his breath, in and out of his nose, and the imagery that we worked on, that he didn't feel any pain. But anytime the doctor would talk to him and try to bring him back, quote unquote, to the present, then that's when the pain kicked in. So he'd have to tell the doctor, no, leave me alone. back to the hypnosis. And so, yeah, you really are present, really, in the most powerful way. And you're present at not only the conscious level, but at the subconscious level. In other words, you're using your mind finally as it's been created to be used.
That's fabulous. And, I've heard certain people in the world of medicine say this is just hokey pokey, that you can't, because I've heard people use hypnosis to also turn down the pain when they're, not even going through surgery, but going through something in the hospital or whatever, and doctors don't take it quite seriously. But, explain a little bit about the healing aspects that can be used when you're using hypnotherapy.
Let's be clear that that there are some doctors who think it's baloney. The Harvard Medical School, for example, did a study. And this is as mainstream as it comes. Harvard Medical School did a study that when people break huge bones like their leg bones or the major bones of their arms or their hips, they found that when clients had hypnotherapy, they healed 1/3 time quicker than people who didn't. And this is in the Harvard Medical School study. There are medical studies to prove that hypnosis is very helpful with people who suffer from irritable bowel syndrome, from asthma. We have cases where people are reversing chronic diseases. I have a woman who's a client of mine who has ALS. The first time she came into my office, she was in a wheelchair. And I said, I can help you with pain because hypnosis is really powerful in reducing pain levels. I can help you with pain. But wouldn't you rather just live instead?
Yeah.
And she said, what do you mean? I said, well, we have evidence after evidence. Dr. Joe Dispenza, his book called You Are the Placebo, has pages of people who, using the power of their mind, reverse terminal diseases. I said, you want to give it a try? Well, like I said, she came in first and foremost in a wheelchair. Now she comes in a walker under her own power.
Wow.
And so step by step, we are reversing the effects of these things. So like I said, probably more than any field, medicine actually supports hypnotherapy. I have a friend who's a psychiatrist who used to be on the faculty at the Mayo Clinic, and he says that they train all of their psychiatric residents in hypnosis now to help with disorders because it's so powerful.
Wow. And this brings to mind for me, I had heard a past guest who is a doctor say that a lot of the medical issues that he comes across are really based on a lot of emotional baggage or issues that people have gone through that they haven't dealt with. And so this sounds like hypnotherapy can help you because it's bringing to the surface what might be in your subconscious that hasn't been dealt with, and then they're allowing you to release it and then live without the pain or the illness.
Yeah, a good example of this would be in hypnotherapy, we work with what we call body syndromes.
Okay.
And a body syndrome is a disease or pain or a manifestation of discomfort that really is an unhealed neurosis trying to resolve itself. So a woman who has 4 kids and a husband who is working faithfully at almost 18 hours a day to kind of keep the whole boat afloat. She has terrible migraine headaches that medicine is not able to help with. It knocks her out and she's not able to do anything else. But one of the things that we discovered when we put her in hypnosis, when we put her in trance and started talking to her subconscious mind is, and it sounds crazy, but this is the power of the mind, the only time that she had any downtime, time to relax, time to herself, was when she had a migraine headache. Because when she had a migraine, everybody left mama alone, and husband would call in some help and that kind of thing. And so this woman came to the point where she had to relearn how to establish boundaries for herself where she gets the time that she needs in the midst of an incredibly busy life to have peace and renew and restore. And when she did that, the migraines went away for the first time in 20 years.
Wow. So it was almost like the body's defense, like, okay, you're not going to get any time off. We're going to make this issue so that you have to have time off.
Exactly. And, the more, the whole field of mind-body medicine, that has been probably most popularized by Dr. Deepak Chopra, but is very well established in university medical programs now. Dr. Andrew Weil, the University of Arizona, shows that a huge percentage, I won't say the majority, but a huge percentage of disease is rooted in the dysfunctions of the mind, and it's the body's way of trying to resolve issues.
That is amazing. And this reminds me, early on, before I started my business, just before, I was going to an energy healer, and she kept coming up for her that I was having some issue in my throat chakra. And I was like, okay, I have no idea what that is because I'm not versed in Eastern medicine. But I was also at the same time having thyroid issues, major thyroid issues. And she kept saying, I feel that you're not living, being, and speaking your truth. About a month after starting my business, all of the symptoms went away. Now reflect back thinking because I truly was doing what she was saying is that I was truly not living, being, and speaking my truth. I wasn't living the life I was meant to live. And it's interesting how that when you just take, the body gives you these clues that are, we can call it bad or whatever and give it labels, but really it's the body's way of trying to communicate to us.
Absolutely. And it just goes to show that we are an integrated whole in ways that we never understood before.
Yeah. Now, Dr. James, how does this work out for, say, a business owner at home who's trying to build a business, and they keep coming up against blocks that are preventing them from really growing their business? Now, I'm guessing the subconscious could be playing some mind tricks like mine were, where they have limiting beliefs that are stopping you. What are some ways that hypnotherapy could help, say, a business owner that doesn't have any physical effects or even, they think, neurological effects, but how could it help them grow their business?
Well, it's important to understand how the whole mind works, and the conscious mind, which is the power that most of us live our lives out of. It's our logic and our willpower and our decision making and our rationality. That is only 10% of our mind power. We've come to discover that 90% of our mind power is in the subconscious mind, where our habits and our life scripts and our relationship patterns, even our physical health, our body symptoms, and our emotions all reside. And so what we're doing in hypnotherapy is we are, as I've said before, helping the gardener plant positive seeds in the garden. And very often, whether it is in an inability to have significant romantic relationships in our lives, physical issues, but in this case, business issues, the reality tends to be that we have some degree of psychological, unconscious, subconscious blocks that are keeping us from manifesting the kinds of business success that we want. Because, I looked the other day at a study that said, that there are now 9.5 million millionaires in the United States as of a 2011 survey. So in other words, there are millions of millionaires in the United States. And why are they successful and your client not? It's not because there's not money out there. There's an abundance of money out there. It's not because there's not opportunity out there. There's an abundance of opportunity out there. There is a significant amount of ways to make money in this culture, and so in this system. So very often what is happening is that something in our emotional center is blocked. Assuming that the client, the business person is making a product, it's quality product, and that they're managing their finances well, and they're not upside down in debt and all these other kinds of things. Kind of the 10% of the conscious mind stuff. That down in the subconscious, in the 90%, there are patterns that are sabotaging the business person's success. And so we go into the subconscious and find out what that is, disable those, and enable more empowering beliefs. Because like I said, if you take an objective look at our culture, even our economy rather, even with all of the challenges that exist right now, people are making money right and left. So there's no reason that our client can't too.
And that's amazing, because I recall one of the exercises my mentor did. She said, okay, for your new business, I want you to throw out any word that comes to your mind. And I've heard this in general psychology, that, just say what comes to your mind, bam, bam, bam. So I just started throwing words out there that she said, your business, what comes up? And then I just started saying words. And all of them were negative. They're like stuck, broke, all of the, and some of my greatest fears, homelessness, whatever. And she's like, do you realize you didn't say one thing positive? You didn't say anything that says for me that you even believe this can work. You said something about most of the conscious, what we're aware of, is only 10%. Why is most of our life only 10% conscious and the rest not? Why are most of it subconscious?
Well, because it's subconscious. It's below consciousness, literally. It's subconscious. Back in the 18th century, a Frenchman developed the word subconscience, which is French, which later became subconscious, when he came to realize that there's a whole lot more going on underneath the level of our day-to-day reality than we're aware of. So for us to move into that realm, we have to overcome some obstacles that the conscious mind places there. So for example, what your mentor was having you do was a little bit of free association, and it was revealing what is already in your subconscious mind. That at some level you didn't believe that either you were worthy of success, or that your business was going to work, or there was any way to make this whole thing come together. So what we do is we wipe out all that kind of language, because the subconscious accepts whatever it's told. It's amazing. It accepts whatever it's told. So for example, when people come to me and say, I want to lose 30 pounds, I say, can't do it. And they look at me like, well, wait a minute, what are you saying? I said, I can help you release 30 pounds. But if you use the language lose, if I said to you, Christina, I have just lost something, what your first response would be what? Well, let's help you find it.
Oh, yeah.
Because we lose something. Yeah. And so the subconscious, when you say I'm going to lose weight, says, I'll help you find it. So it's crazy, but it's true. It's been proven time and again. So even our language matters. And so part of the mentoring, hypnotherapy process is learning how to use language, and that's the whole thing of neuro-linguistic programming, but how to use language to support the kinds of changes that you want in the subconscious.
Yeah. Yeah. And I recall for her, the first thing she had me stop doing is saying I'm broke or dead, because those are both negative connotations. There are nothing positive about them, and it's focusing on the result I don't want as opposed to the result I do want.
Exactly. So when you said I'm broke and I'm in debt, your subconscious said, okay,
I'll create that for you. Here you go.
Yeah.
Here's more of that.
Yeah.
I was going to say what really was powerful for me, and I don't know if you use this with your patients, but do you do journaling a lot and allow them to get their thoughts on paper? Is that a tool you use sometimes?
It depends on the person. I do it, and I encourage it. Some people are just not writers, though. We tend to be, pardon the metaphor, either left-brained or right-brained as people typically. And so if somebody is more oriented towards expressions of painting and art and music, sometimes I have them engage in imagination and dream work and that kind of thing in those forums. Authors obviously write, and so we do lots of good writing. But we also live in a culture that, we're not even taught how to do cursive writing in school anymore, so writing has been degraded a little bit depending on the person. So depending on what their needs are is what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I noticed part of what you say and call yourself is a transformational hypnotherapy is what you do. So you added on the transpersonal in there. Now, what does exactly that mean?
Well, what I'm interested in, and this is only my bias, but since it's my business, it can be my bias, is that people come, the number one reason people come to hypnotherapists in the United States is to stop smoking. The number two is to lose weight.
Wow.
Yeah. Number three is to pass the bar exam or some major issue like public speaking or relationships. Well, I believe in the human person to the extent that I don't want them to just stop smoking. I don't want them to be, we call them an air breather. I want them to do that, but I want them to be happy, healthy, prosperous, living a full life, and stopping smoking is only part of that. What we understand with the subconscious mind is that when you start to undertake a radical restructuring in one area, the rest starts to go along with it. So I would rather focus from the get-go. Like I told this woman who has the ALS, had such phenomenal change working with me. I said, do you want to just stop being in pain, or would you like to live your life again? And that's kind of the transpersonal, the kind of the transformative piece, is that I believe that we're connected to a larger self than just our personal individual self. Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious. Religious people call it, the spirit, whatever you want to call it. But moving beyond just a particular limiting issue to help people live a full and vibrant and prosperous and happy life seems, to my mind, to be a better use of our time than simply to stop smoking. And I've never proposed that to somebody, and they say, no, I want to stop smoking and remain miserable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe someday I will. Maybe someday say, I like my misery, I just want to quit smoking.
Yeah.
So for me, that's why it's transformational. I want my clients to be happy, healthy, whole, prosperous, engaged, enjoying life. And that really is a whole transformative process that goes beyond the symptom that they came to me for.
That's intriguing. I recall one guy saying to me, he's a business strategist and such, and he said, people come to me and they say, everything in my life is perfect, but my business is in shambles. And he said, I think your statement's not completely accurate, because generally when one part of your life is suffering greatly, other parts have varying degrees of, not being perfect. So you say, I bet you anything, if we work on this one aspect, other aspects will start, improving, like your relationships and blah, blah, blah. So I think that's similar to what you're saying right here.
Well, yeah, Tony Robbins, one of our great teachers in this area, said, if you want to know about how a businessman, thinks and works, go play golf with him. Because how he plays golf will be how he does everything else in our lives, because how we do what we do is how we do what we do, and we may convince ourselves that, I'm the best lover in the world or the best father or partner, but it's just my business that sucks. But if you go deeper, you discover that these subconscious patterns are causing a block. And so we have to transform the whole in that process.
Yeah. And for any patient coming to you that wants to, say, do anything in their life, whether it's stop smoking, lose weight, or transform their business or whatever it might be, how long is the process? Is it different for every person?
Yeah, it depends. We've had people stop smoking in one session.
Whoa.
Because they were facing a tracheotomy. I mean, of course, we've seen people on the news or TV shows that smoke through their tracheotomy, and they're so addicted. But we've had people stop smoking in one session. Typically, though, with smoking cessation, that we say, let's plan for 6 sessions. The weight loss is the same thing. People are so invested in food beyond nutrition. Food means so much. And so to take a lifetime and turn it around, it could take 6 to 10 sessions, spread out over several months while they're working with a nutritionist. And, because ultimately when it comes to weight loss, you have to stop eating so much and start exercising. I mean, that's kind of the bottom line. What we do is we provide the motivation piece. So it really depends. But the rule of 6 is by the 6th session, you should be able to see profound change, or we need to reevaluate, because something should be working by 6 sessions on anything that we're working on.
Yeah. And if it's not, then maybe it's an issue of the person not being ready to take this step forward. They're holding back, perhaps.
Absolutely, yeah. Again, what we started the interview with, this homeostasis principle comes up.
Yeah.
That, I really want to make this business work, but if you have a subconscious pattern
it can't.
that was rooted in your mother saying, you'll never amount to anything, and that is what, with 90% of the mind power, is ruling what you're doing. No matter how you try, it's not going to work until you heal that up.
Yeah, that is amazing, because I know you can try everything to say it out loud, but if inside you're thinking or feeling something else. Now, besides hypnotherapy, when they come to you, having a mentor like you or a therapist, is having the belief that they can change helping them? Because I'm guessing some people come in and be like, I've tried every diet, I've tried everything to stop smoking, it doesn't work. Is this really going to work?
I have to tell you, hypnotherapy is usually the choice of last resort.
Really?
People routinely come to me saying, I've tried everything else, I might as well give this a try. And part of it is because, our hypnosis has, such a a false portrayal in our culture. You know, people are afraid that they're going to quack like ducks and walk like zombies, you know.
Yeah.
Instead of, you know, seeing it as a powerful, transformative tool. But as I was saying to some colleagues the other day, I did an in-service to train some new hypnotherapists. I said, you know, ultimately, what we do as hypnotherapists is help the client believe in themselves.
Yeah.
Because once they believe in themselves that they can make the change, then they do. So in the beginning, yeah, my authority is the therapist. My confidence is the therapist, because I'm very good at what I do and I get great results. Often is the bridge to help the client make the step over into the second, third, fourth session where they say, wow, something really is happening, and they begin to believe in themselves.
Yeah, I completely see where you're coming from, because for me, that was, my mentor was that person. She was able to help me see huger reality for me of I could be a bigger person, live a bigger way, and live my greatest gifts and talents in the world. This is awesome, Dr. James. I want everyone to find out more about you and your book. I mean, let people know where they can find out more about you.
Well, my website is one word. It's davidjameshypnosis.com. davidjameshypnosis.com. And you can sign up for my newsletter. You can contact me there. We can work together in Los Angeles, or I have clients that I work with Skype around the world. I have two in Dubai and several in Manhattan that I work with weekly from Los Angeles. So distance is not an obstacle. We can do this. My new book is coming out. It's called Discovering Your Magnificent Mind.
Love it.
Discovering Your Magnificent Mind. That it's in the production stages yet, so it was supposed to be released in January, but it's still coming. But the best way to get a hold of me is davidjameshypnosis.com.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, it's been so educational and wonderful having you share your gifts and talents. I want to thank you again, Dr. James, for coming to Savvy Central Radio.
I'm glad to. I'll be glad to come back if you ever need it. So thanks again.
Now here's our interview with Dr. Dorothy Adamiak on conquering your health challenges. Hi, Dr. D. Welcome to Savvy Central Radio. How are you this evening?
Very good. Thank you, Christina. Thanks for inviting me to your podcast.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you this evening. You're going to talk about something very, very important. That's health. And you had quite a journey to find your absolute wellness and health in your life. And what we were discussing before we got on the air here is that, I mean, almost all of my friends past the age of 35 onward started to have health issues. And it's amazing how people in Canada and in the United States have such varying health issues past the age of 35. And so share with our audience a little bit about your backstory, how you became a doctor and got focused on health, and then we'll go on from there.
All right. So currently I live and work in Toronto, and besides working in the clinic as a healthcare provider, I also blog a lot. I do public speaking, and I'm also an author. And today I want to share a story with you, a very personal story, and I think to me it's extremely exciting and uplifting how a person can become better person in over time. Yeah. So it's a success story, and I hope that listeners will grow from it, relate to it, and make a conclusion on how to be more productive and run even better and more profitable business. That's a story about who we are and who we could possibly be. It's a true story. I have witnessed it myself, so it's actually my story. So let me open it up with a statement. I do not think that people choose professions. I really believe that it's professions who choose people. And there's always a reason why one is a carpenter, a minister, a real estate agent, a broker, or even in your case, Christina, right?
Absolutely.
There's always a reason why we do what we do. And my story is not any different. Okay, so curiously, when I came to North America many, many years ago, I did not think about becoming a doctor. That wasn't even an option. You know, I came from a poor country, from Poland, and I did not want very much. I wanted a normal life, a better life that I had, so I didn't have to think about what to put on the table the next day. So all I wanted to have something very normal, very standard, just better than I had. What was it? It was an office job. You know, aspiration. I had a girl aspiration. I wanted an office job, right? I thought, that's the most normal. That's the average. That's what I want. just something better than $5 an hour. I wanted a desk job, maybe 7.5 an hour. That was all I wanted. So I set myself on a mission. I got a degree in business, and I started working up on a corporate ladder. I thought, okay, 750, 850, 9, 10. Yeah, I got it, right? I thought I was doing it right, but it turned out that 9 to 5 ain't no good for me. It was such a disastrous journey. Shortly, I developed a major fatigue. Then I got lightheaded, forgetful, done, zombie-like. I just couldn't function. It was so hard on me. I just couldn't hold a full-time job anymore. I couldn't do anything. When I was not sick, I was tired. It was just, if not one, then the other. Completely unproductive. So that was my life. I was sleeping a lot. I was stressed out. I got headaches. You know that. You probably meet people like that every day that just can't have it. Just can't have it. So the work was wearing me out. And it turned out later on I had chronic fatigue syndrome and environmental sensitivities, adrenal burnout, you name it, low immune system. I came to the point of stop, no more. So what did I do? What does a sick person do? Goes to the doctor. So I went from one to the other, to another one. I tried medical doctors, different health experts. So I started on different pills, both prescription and non-prescription and vitamins. And sure, I can't say there was a lot of improvement, but you know what? If you have to keep up a regime just for the sake of living a slightly better life, just so you can make it until tomorrow, it really wears you down, this pill routine. You get sore stomach, and it gets very sore on your pockets too. It just gets expensive. So that was it. And I thought, okay, what do I do now? See, I have a type A personality. I'm a workaholic. Christina, you know, right?
Yes, absolutely. I can totally relate. Yeah.
Sure, I like it busy. It makes me happy. And I really hate when things don't work. And especially when you want to achieve something, when you want to grow, and it's a no-go. It's a terrible feeling. It's a terrible feeling. You just feel stuck. And then I look at other people, and is everybody like me? I don't think so. I think they have normal jobs. They go through the day. They go home. They make dinner. They play with kids. Something is wrong with me. And then I realized that there is a difference. There's the difference between me and the other people. What's the difference? The difference was health. They had it. I didn't. And at that moment, I realized that I have to kind of shift my priorities. Not job first, health then. First has to be, in my case at least, health first, and then I can have a job. So at that moment, it was very clear for me that, health to me at that moment became a backbone for everything. No health, no happiness, no being productive, no any financial freedom, no fun. I couldn't even have a good relationship with anybody. I was just sleeping nonstop. But the problem is that from a doctor to a doctor, from a doctor to a doctor, and nothing going. So what did I do? I did something quite unusual. I didn't want to carry on like that. It was just not working. I quit. I quit my life. I suddenly quit everything. I quit my dream office job, and then I decided to put all my eggs in one basket. Health. So suddenly went back to university, did Bachelor of Science, and then I signed up for 4 years full-time naturopathic program. Altogether, it took about 7 full-time years. It's totally consuming, involving, time-consuming. It was 100%. I didn't have any social life whatsoever. It was extremely expensive. It left me with over $100,000 in debt. But you know what? Now I'm looking at it back. It was totally, totally, totally worth it. Well, at that time, I completely didn't have a clue that there is any kind of statistics about health and return on investment. And now when there are a lot of people, business-minded, hearing me, it's like, why is she talking about health? Where's the business part of it? Well, this is where it comes. So I came across a study about years later that related productivity, business productivity, and health spending. And that study calculated that there is a ROI, which is return on investment for dollars spent on health. So the stat said that for every dollar spent on health, there is $4 return on investment in 4 or 5 future years. Well, this is about 400% return. That's a huge yield. I didn't know that at the time. To me, it was debt. I had $100,000 in debt.
Wow.
Right? And that's it. But to me, this $100,000 plus turned out exceptionally well, because not only I ended up having this 400% investment return, but also it led to a change of career, which is less stressful and which pays much more. And it's not, I don't have to worry about what boss is going to say about my work.
Yeah. Wow.
So it was quite a bit of a turnaround.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, how would this story, why would I even say it on the radio? Why would that make anybody want to listen to me? Well, because that story will help anybody who is listening make a much more profitable move in their own business. There are many listeners who, for sure, they want to be more dynamic, more productive. They want to have more success, work and personal life. And during that journey of mine, I've learned 2 exceptionally important lessons. These lessons I would like to pass on. So, lesson number one is that health is a priority. I learned it the hard way. And Christina, we just talked before the podcast about health, how health is very important. And yes, because no health, no productivity, and no money. Money is practically everything. Every business needs a healthy boss. And that boss needs to show up to work. He needs to lead by example and make good, healthy decisions for the business. And if you're not a boss, if you're just a worker, you also have to be healthy. You need to show up to work. You cannot take sick days off all the time. You can't make mistakes, or quit. The turnover is very high for people who are not well.
Yeah.
So sickness and chronic illness can stop practically anything, can destroy any business.
Yeah.
So whether you own your business or you work for somebody, I think you agree with me. That's so important, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the audience can really relate to your story too. I mean, I know for myself, what got me out of corporate, finally leaping into my dreams, was getting sick. And hearing your story early on about how you were continually sick and doctors just giving you pills to handle the problem, I think it's a big issue in both Canada and the United States that I think patients even begin to expect, hey, I'm sick. I go to the doctor, they write me a prescription, and I get better. And we don't realize that there is another way to handle the situation.
Well, here's the surprise. Lesson number 2. Health does not come from pills. And this is a big surprise even to my patients who come over and they expect pills. Please prescribe some kind of a substitution for these awful chemical pills that I'm taking. But we are all health conscious. We all want to end up with better health. So everybody goes for physical. Everybody does the blood work, take whatever doctor prescribes. But that method is nothing to do with health. And that was my revelation later on. This is taking care of disease. This is disease management. It's nothing to do with health. So that kind of method of self-pilling does not have a very high ROI, return on investment. That's why it didn't work for me. I kept on doing it. I was doing it all the time. I was on pill nonstop. I just didn't go anywhere. So the improvement that I have gotten from it was just only to cover up the medical expenses. That's all. So you think, really? So what's wrong with those pills? What's wrong with painkillers, sedatives, antibiotics? You name it. Well, let me give you a little bit of explanation. Let's say you have a heartburn. So what do? What's the first thing anybody will do, Christina?
They take a heartburn medication. I forget what you call them, like Tums and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So you get immediate relief, but does this pill repair the stomach?
Mm-mm.
It
Doesn't deal
doesn't.
with the cause. It doesn't deal with what generally caused the problem.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
How would you know that it fixed the stomach? How would you know that the pill fixed the stomach? It doesn't, but how would you know that the pill fixes the stomach? Only when you take a pill, 2 or 3, and then the stomach will never do the heartburn again.
Mm.
That's how you know that the pill is curative, not just managing the symptoms, not like bringing you temporary relief.
Yeah. How do you work with patients differently, say, than average, traditional doctors who just give someone a prescription or pills?
Well, first of all, I try to figure out how far they understand what health is about and what their expectations are. If they think that all they want is a substitution for a pill, then maybe I have it. But my core is to find out why they ended up with arthritis, why they ended up with heartburn. Maybe there's something that they can do, something small that had caused, that they might not know, that they have caused something themselves. Like I have a story of my father. This is a cute story because what we have a routine. Every Sunday I call him and he answers the Skype. He is in Poland still. And we chat for an hour or two, and that's his entertainment for the week.
Aww.
So,
So cool.
it's totally cool. So he tells me all about health. And 2 weeks ago, he told me a bad news. He said his doctor found protein in his urine. So he said his kidneys are going through. He needs to do this. He needs to do something about it. And the doctor prescribed another pill. But let me tell you, I was not blessed with good genetics at all. My father is 83 and he's like on 20 different pills for blood pressure thinning, cholesterol, early Alzheimer, prostate, not peeing at night, all sorts of things, you name it, right? So then one more pill is like, oh, Dad, no, don't do it. So he said, so Dorothy, do you think that maybe drinking water will help?
Yes.
I said, yeah, sure. But you know what? I didn't even come up with this. The reason why, because I've been fighting with him about this water for years. He would not drink water. If he would drink half a cup of water in a week, oh, that's max it. That's max it. He will drink 3, 4, 5 cups of coffee, the diuretic, a day, but not an ounce of water. So when the doctor gave him the scare, I said, yeah, you better do it. I was not even expecting him to do it. So the week later I call and he says, you know what? I'm drinking water. I'm forcing myself to not drink 1 liter. And guess what happened? I said, what happened? Okay, I expect everything. Before I couldn't go to the city because I never knew when I had to pee. Every time I was going out, it was so urgent, I couldn't hold it. So I thought if I drink more water, I will be even worse. I wouldn't be able to get out at all. He was surprised. He said, now I can hold for 4 hours. He said, I can go on and sit to the city. But guess what? What happened? My sugar went down. Really? How much do you have? 5.1. That in US, it's about 91, 95, which for him is a miraculous thing. Now my blood pressure is down. No kidding. So there's so many things that have happened. He said, that's all in 1 week. I said, wow. Yes, Dad, that's all in 1 week. So he went to his doctor and he said, doctor, maybe I don't need so many pills anymore. And they start cutting down. So this is just an example of how when you match a person's willing to change to what will be the most effective ROI for them. For him, it was just a glass of water in a day, but it caused drop in the sugar, drop in the blood pressure. And he said, my blood pressure should go up, shouldn't it? Because I drink more liquid, so I have more water inside. But it didn't. Right?
I love that story about your dad because, often I think we think if we're sick that we're going to have to make drastic changes. And in some cases that might be true. You might have severe cancer and you might have to start making some quick drastic changes. But sometimes, if you are like what I had when I had Graves' disease, I started to make some simple changes with my diet, which greatly helped. And just to imagine your dad, just one glass of, well, actually a liter of water,
a liter.
It just transformed his life in a week. And imagine that you can make a small change like that and have such...
I hope he's going to remember because he's got earlier Alzheimer.
Oh, no, you need to call him weekly and remind him about the liter of water.
Every week I'll be calling him.
Wow. And I was really, really touched by hearing your story as a child that you had often, tonsillitis and sore throats and fevers, and that the doctors would regularly give you antibiotics. And that's very pertinent here in the United States. I don't know about Canada, but often when there's a problem, patients and doctors alike patients will want antibiotics, whether they have even a virus when it can't help them. And doctors are like, oh, you got a little pain, here's some antibiotics. And it really is causing a lot of disaster in our health because of the overprescribing of antibiotics.
Correct. And causes quite a bit of problem with antibiotic-resistant bacteria.
Yeah, we had a guy on last year, a microbiologist, who talked just about that, about the antibiotics being used in our food sources, that the overuse of it is causing a disaster in a lot of people's health. So what would you suggest, say someone out there is feeling like you, perhaps really sluggish, maybe their body is not operating up to its peak maximum efficiency. How would they get started with, discovering what their body's needs are?
The body has a language. It talks all the time. Your facial marks, your body marks, how you walk, how you look, all talks. And it talks about your health. I teach quite a bit of health skills on my blog. So there's just recently I posted about how to find out how you're pre-diabetic. And there are 3, for example. 9 out of 10 people are pre-diabetics, but we don't know. We simply don't know. How would you know? For example, you see expanding waistline, hair loss, and a few other things. For example, you're not feeling that up to par, you have a fatigue. That's a very common pre-diabetic situation. So what do? The first thing in prediabetes is to look at the diet. So you need to distinguish which foods are good for you, which foods are not. So everybody is different. There's just not one advice. If I can give one advice to everybody today is learn, read, and drink water.
Yeah, that's the great way to start, because I love that you say everyone's body is different, because I've had different health professionals on, whether they're nutritionists or fitness folks or even doctors, and some of them will have a certain technique or something that they swear by. But I had one guy on a couple of years ago. He said, I've learned since that every single body and every single person is different and responds differently. Because how do you explain one person who smokes like a chimney for 40 years, doesn't get lung cancer and has seemingly perfectly lungs, and someone else who smokes maybe once a week and her lungs are drastic and get lung cancer? So
I'll tell you something, Christina, because it was from the very early time when I just became a naturopathic doctor, and I'll tell you how different we are. And I just said about prediabetes, and I said, go and look at your diet. But I had one patient that came, and she was total pre-diabetic. You could see it in the blood. And I just checked her spine, and one of the vertebrae was completely out. And she said, that I always had that back pain for years. She didn't even mention it. It was evident during the physical examination. So since we do the chiropractic adjustments, I put the vertebra back in it, and that vertebra was linked to the nerve that was going to pancreas. Little did I know that was just enough for her to become non-pre-diabetic anymore. That was unusual. So you can see how vastly different we are. It's just not diet for everyone. It's not water for everyone.
Yeah, because everyone's body has different needs and operates differently and is affected by different things. Because what I found interesting is even your emotional space, like you mentioned earlier on, if you're going through difficulty in your marriage, you have a very stressful job, your body will interpret that differently and give you different symptoms and different things to deal with than someone else. And for someone it might be heart failure issues, for someone else it might be Graves' disease, like myself. Yeah,
absolutely. Body is so wonderfully interconnected. The parts are interconnected. You just have to learn the language, and that language is just health skills. Know what's going on, and first, if you're on the pills, learn what these pills are doing. Are they the health pills, or they are the monitoring disease pills? And then you start figuring out which direction you want to to go. And if you want to grow a business, and it's a very profitable business, you have to be healthy and you have to have a healthy workforce. Otherwise, it's just no go, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've known that for myself. When I was in corporate working 13, 14 hours, I would cook myself so much with stress that by the time I came home, I could do nothing. I couldn't even eat. I was so exhausted. And it took a number on me. My doctor actually told me, if you continue on this road, you will have a stroke or a heart attack. It's just a matter of when, not if.
The corporate world also gave me a present. I wear glasses because I was so difficult. I thought, oh gosh, I have to do this. I was sitting on the computer doing the charts. I was staying one day. I got up from 10 o'clock at night because I'm a workaholic, right? I got up from the chair and I looked down the corridor and I don't see the end of the corridor. So what's going on? And I was so tired. My eyesight was so worn out. Since then, I had to wear the glasses on, and that's it. And I have that corporate present until now.
Yeah. And it's a good thing to mention because as we get older, and we discussed at the beginning of the conversation that as we get older, our body can't take the abuse it once did, maybe in your 20s. I know in my 20s, I used to eat horribly and 2 liters of Coca-Cola a day, and it seemingly had no effect, but that's not true. It does have a cumulative effect.
Cumulative effect,
Later on, impacts your life and then gives you sometimes presents that take either a while to, resolve or sometimes never. So it's a good day to get started discovering your body's language.
Yes. If you learn it will be awesome. You will see every morning you wake up and you run to the mirror in the bathroom and say, okay, did my wrinkle disappear? Oh my God, I better take more vitamin C because one more appeared. You just start looking at yourself and you see, and that aging process becomes a completely different thing. You're no longer worried about diseases. You're no longer worried about, oh my God, an accident is going to happen. Am I this or am I that? No, you just know your body well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to let everyone know you also have a wonderful book called The Ultimate Guide to Law and Fluctuating blood pressure. Yeah,
low and fluctuating blood pressure, and that's a funny name, yes, because it's my story. It is my story about fatigue, and I have overcome the fatigue, and how I discovered that I had everything, including low blood pressure. And since I was a very excited person, that when I was going to the doctor, they never figured it out because my blood pressure was always normal, but it was my normal high because I was excited. But when I went back home, it was always low. So nobody could figure anything out. And that book is just about how to figure out your own body. So take your blood pressure monitor, check how it behaves, because we're being told to check it when we are sitting and doing nothing. But blood pressure fluctuates all the time. It's one of the languages that body talks. And if you understand how your blood pressure behaves in different situations versus how it should, you've got a clue here. And a lot of people have very early problems that they could potentially detect by using the blood pressure monitor, but seldom they do. Do you know, for example, that low blood pressure leads to anxiety and depression? That's number one cause.
Wow.
As well as dementia. Yes. So it's very simple. Low blood pressure, poor blood flow to the brain. The brain doesn't get enough oxygen. Over time, it just decays.
Yeah. I like that you just mentioned that because I have this super fright of going to the doctor. So my blood pressure since I was a little girl is super high at the doctor's office. But I got a blood pressure machine at home when I had Graves' disease, and I started to notice that in different situations it would fluctuate and be lower in less stressful situations. And of course, at the doctor's office through the roof.
Of course, yes. Especially on the first visit or when you expect the bad news.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want you to let everyone know, Dr. D, where they can find out more about you and work with you and all that good stuff.
Well, I have a blog, so there are a lot of people going my way. The blog is under drdnaturopath.com. So DRD stands for Dr. D, right? drdnaturopath.com. And if you even wish to get the book or you're curious about it, you'll find it at amazon.com. I do have Skype appointments with folks that are not here. Here I have a clinic, but you probably will have to be in Ontario in order to become my patient.
Well, beware. There are quite a few listeners that are in Canada, so you might get lucky.
Oh, they are?
Yeah. So you might have some people coming to visit. Well, I want to thank you so much, Dr. D, for coming to share your story and this very important information today on Savvy Center Radio.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, and I hope to come back again.
You betcha.